Come on in, pull up a chair and take a load off because today I'm going to page through and review Swords and Wizardry Complete from Frog God Games. So, is this retro clone of original Dungeons and Dragons worth a purchase? Or is it just all dusty and musty? Well, you will find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, I'm going to page through and review Swords and Wizardry. It is the core rulebook for the retro clone of the original fantasy role-playing game, which I can say Dungeons and Dragons. Fraud God Games can't, but we are going to jump in. I'm going to page through. We are going to take a look and kind of cover all the bases with Swords and Wizardry, which is written by Matthew Finch, who you may have noticed I interviewed about a month and a half ago. We talked a bit about old school Renaissance gaming. Do you want to point out this 144-page hardcover is available from Frog God Games. I believe they still have a few in stock because there are some changes to the presentation of Swords and Wizardry I will talk about as we're paging on through. But you can get the hardcover book for $34.99. You can also get this in PDF absolutely free from Drive-Thru RPG. It's important to keep in mind, yes, this very book that I'm going to take a look at right here is available in PDF for $0. It is absolutely free. So we've got the hardcover here. Flip this on over. It says the Swords and Wizardry Complete Rulebook because first edition was not the first edition. Treasure and glittering gems, dark places beneath the earth where monsters dwell, magic circles, pentagrams, and pentacles, runes of evil import, and iron-banded doors of moldering oak. Wizards of vast power, living in their isolated towers above black seaside cliffs. Great horned demons in their bloody lairs. Massive stone idols with jeweled eyes and hieroglyphic pedestals. Could that have been from the Player's Handbook? Carved in forgotten khans before the young civilizations of humankind. Strange and glowing orbs floating in the air above rusted metal grates leading to deeper levels of the underground passageways. It is about flying carpets and cursed blades, about hooded priests gathered for unspeakable rites in their forgotten temples. It is about adventure and perilous undertakings, forcing back the evil creatures of chaos from the borderlands of embattled civilization. It is about battle-scarred warriors and deadly sorcerers. It is about Swords and Wizardry. There we go. All right, let's jump on in and start paging through. And I should point out one thing I thought was very cool, very striking is the cover art is from Errol Otis. It is Errol Otis cover art, who, if I remember correctly, I believe Mr. Otis passed away not too long ago. I might be wrong. I do apologize if I'm wrong about that. But that is certainly a flashback to original D&D, more so first edition Dungeons and Dragons, I believe. So we're going to jump on through into here. There is not a lot of wasted space. There is not a lot of wasted text or anything along those lines as far as the core book here. Jumps right on in. We get a bit of a foreword by Tim Kask, as well as an introduction from Matt Finch. Jump into creating a character. So, effectively, this is old school Renaissance. This is OSR. And this is original Dungeons and Dragons. This is the original box with the little white books, or some people had the brown. I believe it was brown box originally. I had white box. And although I tended to play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, not a lot, because Call of Cthulhu came out right when I was, I believe, a freshman or going into my freshman year of high school. And that was the game I tended to run. But everything with this is effectively much of OD&D, but with a modern flair to it. A lot more accessible to first timers reading through this, as opposed to even OD&D or first edition D&D. Even, I got to be very honest, B/X Dungeons and Dragons. This is very, very nicely presented. Got all the info in here. Of course, keeping in mind we've got druids, we've got assassins. So there are those extra character classes from OD&D, from the original game. Cool artwork. A lot of the artwork really, really does harken back to the old days of Dungeons and Dragons. We got the Paladin. It's usually what I would play. I usually played Paladins or Rangers, is what I would tend to play. But all the info jam packed in here. Like I said, there's not a lot of fluff. There is, there's detail, but not tons and tons of background and detail. So really, what you're looking at, and that is effectively pretty spot on with original Dungeons and Dragons, was you had to purchase the other books, kind of fill in the blanks as far as like Greyhawk. So as far as the information about the various different races, the different cultures, not a ton, because we had dwarves, elves, halflings, half elves, and humans. It's pretty much what we had as far as Dungeons and Dragons. Your alignments, you've got chaos and law. You also have neutral as well. So there is no chaotic evil, there is no lawful good, just chaos, neutrality, as well as law, which is fine with me. I have to be honest, in my fantasy role playing, I have never spent much time on alignments for the characters. Sure, alignments help as far as my NPCs, my monsters, things like that, but characters, I tend to feel that they should be more shades of gray, as opposed to just cut out black and white, good and evil. As you can see, we don't have super detailed encumbrance rules, which are cool. The how to play section, jump on in. This is very, very easy to pop into. There are some changes from original D&D. So saving throws, you have just one saving throw. So previously you had all the different like death rays and poison, wands turned to stone, dragon's breath, spells and staff. That does not come into play in Swords and Wizardry if you don't want it to. You can, of course, right here, we got the information right there if you want to just have like OD&D saving throws. But personally, I like the fact that it's one saving throw, and depending on your class, you might have some bonuses to that saving throw. Makes it pretty easy as far as doing your saving throws. We've got combat. We've got some alternate combat methods as well, which I thought was pretty cool. We will have, for armor class, we've got descending as well as ascending armor class. I'm a fan of ascending armor class, even if you are playing an OSR style rule set. I know some folks out there are kind of along the lines of, well, Jeff, what is OSR? And everybody's got a definition for old school Renaissance or old school revival. A lot of people can't even agree what OSR stands for. But to me, the way I look at OSR is not super heavily into rules. It is more about the game master making decisions as far as, but very fairly, right? As far as can players do certain things? We don't necessarily need to have 1,000 different little rules for various different things. So that is one aspect. Also, old school Renaissance games tend to be deadlier. They also tend to be a little less focused on the characters like modern role-playing games, players will spend hours constructing their characters and coming up with these very, very detailed backstories, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But with old school Renaissance, the characters, your background is going to be the story moving forward. That's where all that comes from, as opposed to trying to shoehorn people's backgrounds that they've created for their characters into an ongoing adventure. So we've got all our spells. As you can see, spell descriptions are pretty much to the point. Not a lot of fluff involved in this at all, which I like. To be very honest, I like the fact that we can squeeze a bunch of spells on each page. And there are a good number of spells here as well as we go through. In fact, it's a greater number than it may appear to be simply because there are so many of these spells that are squeezed on each page. I mean, but for an example, like Cure Disease, pretty much to the point. Cure Light Wounds. Do you really need an entire page explaining how Cure Light Wounds works? Yes, I do know there are a lot of people who like the fact that, say, in more modern role-playing games, more modern fantasy role-playing games, it's going to tell you, okay, so for this spell, it's spoken, and you need these components, and that's fine. That's cool. I like that. But the reality is, do you really need all that? Plus, the OSR vibe is you can kind of come up with however you want these spell components to be constructed, and not everybody's spell usage or what they do to cast spells has to be the same. Now, one thing I will point out, Magic is a bit different in old school Renaissance games because normally you have to declare what spell you're going to cast at the beginning of a combat round and take it from there. Sometimes if your mage, your wizard gets attacked, it's possible for them to lose their concentration. Of course, with old school Renaissance role-playing games such as this, harkening back to OD&D, you do have the Vancian magic, where depending on the level of your character, be they like magic user or cleric, you will only have a certain number of spells that you can use each day. Once you cast a spell, you forget it. There are no cantrips that are kind of minor spells that are reusable ad infinitum, right? Or ad nauseum, I guess I could even say, as we have in modern games. So, of course, the OSR magic users and clerics tend to be a bit weaker, especially the magic users, as opposed to modern games. Then we get into some information for the ref, for the game master. Talking about designing adventures. There's quite a bit of detail about creating your own adventures in here as well, which I thought was kind of cool. We do get into the concept of challenge levels, which is a more modern take on adventuring, creating adventures, I should say. We've got a bit of info about wilderness adventures and getting lost. Some various different tables as well. Get into a little bit of siege combat, mass combat rules as well. But once again, not a ton. One aspect of Swords and Wizardry that I also like, that I think is pretty cool, is there's a very modular aspect to this game where you can plug in what you like and unplug what you don't like. You can easily house rule many aspects of the game as well, which does harken back to the old days. It really does. It's I like the fact that this is a modern take on original Dungeons and Dragons, white box, brown box, whatever you want to consider it. OD&D. We get into the monsters once again. We get a lot of monsters squeezed into each page. Of course, I always love to have more monster images. Yes, I am one of these people who digs having an entire page devoted to a monster and then having an image of that monster or creature or what have you. But still, you are getting loads and loads of monsters in this bestiary section here. So very nicely done. So you get your stat blocks bit of information as well. I really enjoyed reading through this. This is a very fast read as well. 144 pages. And you can pretty much rock on through this in a couple hours. It's be probably about an hour and a half. I want to say maybe 2 hours to read through all of this, and it really was bringing back memories of my grammar school days and my early years in high school as well. So then we get the monsters by challenge level at the end. Get a bit of a discussion about treasure, of course, creating monsters, a little blurb there as well. We get a few different aspects of treasure. So, of course, old school Renaissance tends to focus more on not always fighting everything, kind of trying to think your way out of situations, a little more puzzle based sometimes. And I know some people dig that, some people don't. I mean, that's fine, you know. Play the games the way you like to play it and play the games that you like. I say it all the time. There is no right or wrong way to run or play a role-playing game as long as everyone at the table is comfortable and everybody has a really, really good time. So getting at the character sheet, bit of an index. And I believe this was originally Kickstarted, so we get some Kickstarter thank yous for different levels. And a notes section as well. And that is everything from Swords and Wizardry, the complete rulebook from Frog God Games. Let's swing on over to the other camera, and I am going to share my final thoughts and give this a review score. So allow me to grab a quick sip here, as I've been blabbing on for about 16 minutes, non-stop. So we got Swords and Wizardry, written by Matt Finch from Frog God Games. I love it. I think this is fantastic. I really, really do. Especially when I add into the fact that you can get the PDF of this same exact book absolutely free. You can get it from Drive-Thru RPG, and I think that is phenomenal. If you want to get the hardcover book, like I said, I believe there are still a few that are available, but there was a very recent Kickstarter to create a box set, kind of like original D&D. And that was very, very successful. That is on the horizon. So, of course, this hardcover book here, I'm going to have to assume is going to go the way of the dodo. But still, all this information is available, and it is really, really good. Like I said, I had a blast reading through and just remembering, my youth. What can I tell you? I think it's a fantastic product as far as those who want to try retro clones. And it makes original Dungeons & Dragons very, very accessible as well to folks out there. Plus, as I mentioned, you can't go wrong. The PDF is absolutely free. So all in all, I give Swords and Wizardry, the complete rules, a 10 out of 10. Big, big thumbs up. Really, really do enjoy it. All right, so that is it for this time out. As I like to always point out, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. If you do, don't forget, ring that little bell, because it will not only notify you when I upload standalone videos, such as my review today, it'll also tell you when my live stream, The Daily Dope, airs Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Of course, do want to point out, I am recording this during the coronavirus epidemic. We are actually on a shelter-in-place order here in Illinois. So I normally like to say until next time, but I always say happy trails, but don't want to say that. So let me wrap up just by reminding everybody to please be safe and be smart. And until next time, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. And of course, if you want to catch up on past episodes of The Daily Dope, check out this playlist. And if you'd like to see what YouTube's recommending you take a peek at from the channel, just give a click right over here. Of course, I'm Jeff McAleer, and once again, thank you very much for watching.